Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm the R6 Lore Guy, and today we're going to be looking at the lore of Year 9 Season 4, because a lot of this has just gotten very interesting, and I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. I'm not going to waste any of your time, so all I ask is, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. So let's jump straight into this. So building up to this season over Year 9, of course, Rainbow managed to get Deimos in their captivity, and he would begin to give them some information whilst being held captive. Whether it is reliable or not, that was for Rainbow to decide. As well as this, due to the attack which took place on Tower, which killed many of Rainbow's recruits, Rainbow recalled all of the training of their recruits back to their main base of operations in Hereford base, England, now referring to the attacking trainees as strikers and the defending trainees as sentries. Rainbow operation staff Mirror and Zero would be in charge of their respective sides, with some operators also playing into this training as well, one of them being Thorn, who was asked by Mirror to completely rewrite the recruit training routine from scratch, giving Thorn quite an interesting new role inside of Rainbow. As well as this, after the assault on Emerald Plains, in which Deimos and the Keres Legion were focusing on Rainbow's council members and attempting to take them out, our operators would begin to get some pressure from one of their biggest threats so far, politicians. Rainbow would begin to start spreading their operators around the globe to protect these high-value council members, with some examples of Amaru and Ayana being sent to Peru, as well as Mozzie and Ram being sent to Greenland, with most likely many more operators being dispersed around the globe. As well as this, over time, Nighthaven would begin to make more and more contact with Rainbow, starting to heal a lot of the broken bridges they had before. Meanwhile, our operators who are interrogating and working off of Deimos' information find intel that there are some Keres Legion members who are camping out at one of Rainbow's older bases, Chalet. Keres Squad Ghost Eyes would intercept these Keres Legion members, and using Keres' interrogation skills would find out more information about the Keres Legion. It is learned that there is a lot of deep pockets working behind them, they have a lot of funding, and they can clearly operate without the need of Deimos. He wasn't the top of the chain. A piece of information she would learn, however, is that the Keres Legion have a safe house in Greece. So that is when Sam makes contact with an ex-Rainbow operative in Greece, Kure Galanos. Now, Kure actually used to serve alongside Gerald as well as Daniel Bogart, and he is actually the reason she is limited to a wheelchair. Well, with her newfound skills operating her shell robots, and after being evaluated by the Global Security Alliance Council, as well as Aurelia, the ex-director of Rainbow, who made her way up the ranks of government after she left, but does seem to play a massive part in Rainbow, especially with the Global Security Alliance Council. What level of role, we don't know yet, but Kure would be allowed to return to active duty inside of Rainbow. Kure would also begin to do a report on our operators, setting up group sessions and really starting to evaluate them. Using the information gathered from Ghost Eyes, Kure and Dokkaebi would make their way to the safe house in Greece held by the Keres Legion and infiltrate their database. This information was heavily encrypted, and one of the things that they were able to find from it was an imminent attack from the Keres Legion. The details of this were very scarce, and Rainbow didn't have a lot to work with. Dokkaebi and Kure would return to Hereford base, where they would meet with Blackbeard, who is supervising a handcuffed Deimos, and this is when Kure would begin to interrogate her old friend. Blackbeard would also make his way to Mirror's lab, as she has finalized a new gadget for him. It seems that Deimos, although giving over accurate information, was giving information that he could lose, and it wasn't really that impactful in the end. And whatever the Keres Legion are about to do, Rainbow can do nothing to stop it. And that is where we move into Operation Collision Point. Now, there's a few different storylines being told in this battle pass, and we're going to focus on each of them in their own separate section. But the first thing I want to look at is the story tab for this battle pass, where we get the introduction of a new character in the lore by the name of Lucas Liu, who is a board member on the Global Security Alliance Council, which we're going to just abbreviate as GSAC going forward. Is he the same one from that assault on Emerald Plains? We don't know, but we do know that he is a board member on GSAC. And here's what he has to say in a paragraph titled Internal Inquiry. Upon reading Dedicated Officer Galanos' most recent report, it has become abundantly clear that she lacks the objectivity required to properly assess Rainbow as an organization. She is too close to this unit, too willing to give them the benefit of the doubt when she should be cracking down. Rainbow was resurrected to work as a deterrent to worldwide safety threats, a job which they have repeatedly failed to do. Instead, they have become a lightning rod for those very issues. And by a lightning rod, he means that they attract the danger. Instead of stopping said threats, their very existence of their operations causes the threats, at least in the eyes of this member. Following on, he says, I, for one, won't sit idly by while civilians are endangered and council members are targeted. I propose we discard all prior assessments and begin a full re-evaluation immediately. As members of GSAC, we owe it to ourselves to elect a neutral party capable of accurately assessing Rainbow to see if they have lived up to the standards we set for them when the program was initiated. And that was one of the GSAC board members, Lucas Liu, proposing an entire re-evaluation of Rainbow as a squad. When I said that politicians were becoming their next big threat, I wasn't lying. So let's take a look at the story in this battle pass, because it seems like the target the Keres Legion we're about to hit is Hereford base. Now, usually when we get the lore for the seasons, we get to see the action straight away and we're right in the midst of it. But this time it seems like the story's being told a bit differently, and we're actually getting it told via the perspective of these other operators who are away from Hereford right now, and we're looking at this situation from the outside in. We had an imminent threat occurring from the Keres Legion, all the recruits have been returned to Hereford base, as well as Deimos being held captive there. And well, it looks like that attack from the Keres Legion is on Hereford base itself. So once Dokkaebi and Kure made their way to Hereford with the information they extracted from the Keres Legion safe house, it appears that Dokkaebi, Mute, and Solace have been looking more into the information in which Dokkaebi stole and trying to extract more data. With Mute saying, "Been mulling over that data, Dokkaebi. How do we even figure out what's real and what's a dud? We're already stretching ourselves thin." With Solace also seemingly trying to get a bit closer to Mute, but we know that Mute is quite a reserved person, hence why Thatcher says to Solace, "Don't take it personally, you'll get through to him eventually, he's just not a people person." And on the topic of Dokkaebi, we also have one by Kavera saying, "Grace, the world's cruel. It'll beat you down until you reach the point of no return. Only then do you find out who you really are." Which I do find it interesting as well, especially in the last comic book, Deimos was talking about, oh, it was that Korean operator that managed to sort of infiltrate the database and stuff like that. I'll have to keep an eye on her. And I also think it's quite interesting coming from Kavera, who's older than Dokkaebi and has been through a bit more. Not to say that Dokkaebi hasn't been through stuff, but I think especially it coming from another woman, especially in like Dokkaebi's story where she came from a very male-dominated path and career and faced a lot of sexism. I think having someone like Kavera, who is a captain of one of the 4 squads, giving her this sort of motivation is a really nice thing. But in this list of the information which they managed to extract from the Keres Legion safe house, one of the locations on the list was a place in Singapore, which is actually the same country in which Nighthaven's base is located. Hibana would use this information as well as one of her squad members' brother and make their way to Singapore. At Hereford, it seems like recruit training is going on as usual, with Thorn underway with her new training regime. One of her good friends, Sledge, who finally has all of the shrapnel removed from his leg after being caught in Deimos' explosion, asking Fuse to remind him to punch Deimos in the throat, gives her a bit of his advice about the training, saying, "We don't get second chances, Brianna. Don't teach them otherwise." But it does seem like some of the recruits aren't cut out for this. We have a little input by one of the sentries, Sentry SH01, saying, "PL3's packing his bags. How many of us will actually make it through this?" Tachanka also gives a little bit of insight to the recruits as well, saying, "Keep pushing, keep fighting. Never look back and never surrender. That's my way. Find out what works for you, recruit." Frost also has a conversation with Maverick at Hereford saying Thorn's letting this training thing get to her head. She's going to end up killing one of the newbies. But at some point during this conversation, Maverick says, "Hey Frost, are your comms working? Mine have been fucked all day." Which is the start of something which is about to happen. Rook and Kapkan would also leave the base, not sure how far, but to do some off-site training, with Rook not really being in the best state of mind, seemingly after their close call at Emerald Plains, even though they did succeed at the end of that mission. With Rook seemingly dwelling on that, and Kapkan telling him to move on. But Rook also questions the point of doing any off-site training, saying that his time is probably better spent at the range. As well as this, Blackbeard also talks to Thermite, who's been going through a rough time for a while now, saying, "Get up, Thermite, we lost the luxury of giving up a long time ago." And Thermite also reaches out to Arini, taking her up on that offer to just go for a drink and have a chat, because it seems like Thermite is finally starting to get some self-healing. But Bandit also looks like he's going through something himself as well, saying, "Still not sure who I am. Same old problem, putting the mission before myself. No time to think, too much to do." Now, remember I was saying about Maverick saying that his comms have been fucked? Well, this isn't just for him. Ram, who was deployed alongside Mozzie to Greenland, would say, "Reporting in, Mozzie and I have delivered a council member to the ministry. No issues, heading back. But it seems like that report may have fell on deaf ears, as we have a bit from Mozzie saying, Hereford's runways are closed? What do you mean the HQ isn't responding? Let's also jump over to Brava and Hibana, who are in Singapore right now, and it seems like this building, which was on the target list, was a dud. As Brava says, why would this building be a target? There doesn't seem to be anything of value here. They then go to report this back to Hereford, but that is when they are also met with nothing in return. HQ isn't responding. Something's wrong, says Brava. This was their plan, says Dokubi. They wanted to spread us thin. We need to get back to Hereford. With all of Hereford's comms down, many operators away from the base, with seemingly no way to return back, it seems like whatever operators are at Hereford are gonna have to rely on each other. We get a bit of insight about what's happening whilst these comms are down, with Castle saying, we're under attack. We need to get all non-combatants out of here. Someone get me a head count. And we also have a little quote by Deimos with a charm which may imply something, saying, your failures are what define you, not your victories. And the charm does show Deimos breaking through a wall, potentially implying what may be happening at Hereford with the Keres Legion breaking him out. And there is more to this battle pass in a minute, but those are the ones which are focused on what's happening at Hereford. With our operators being spread thin across the globe, and Hereford now on lockdown, with all the comms down, it seems like this was the Keres' plan all along. Maybe Deimos even got captured intentionally, and this mass confusion is how they get the upper hand. I mean, Bandit says it best. Can someone tell me what the fuck is happening? Now, we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer to see how this Hereford story plays out, but this battle pass also has some more information about Nighthaven. Now, remember, Brava and Hibana made their way to Singapore to investigate what was on the Keres' list. Seems like that turned out to be a dud, but with HQ not responding and there seemingly not a way to actually get back to Hereford, would it be surprising that maybe they made contact with Nighthaven in Singapore? As we have a few bits by some Nighthaven agents, one of them by Grim talking to Pulse saying, tranquil times make for dull soldiers. Never rest. Keep your mind as sharp as my blade, Pulse. But it's these other ones from the Nighthaven agents which kind of make me feel like maybe Hibana and Brava have made contact with them and they're learning about what's happening at Hereford. Because we have another one by Grim talking to Finka saying, we are mercenaries, not humanitarians. Remember that, Finka. We also have one by Ella talking to Smoke saying, I've let my failures define me for too long, Smoke. That was the old me. It's time for a new perspective. But I think the one which is the most interesting to me is by Callie talking to Smoke saying, suit up, Smoke, it's game time. I mean, Callie did say that they'd only ever get involved if the reward outweighed the risk. Are we at a point where Callie deems it viable to step in? I mean, imagine how it would look for Nighthaven if they were to assist Rainbow when their home base is under siege. I mean, the GSAC is already trying to reevaluate Rainbow's effectiveness. If a private military can come in and basically save them, it's going to be a rough look for Rainbow. It's going to be a good look for Nighthaven. To me, that reward outweighs the risk. And that also may explain as to why Grim is sort of talking to Finka saying we're mercenaries, not humanitarians, and also what Ella said to Smoke. There could be some implications there, especially with a lot of Nighthaven agents having a lot of empathy and, you know, just being good people, whereas Grim, even in the last battle pass, was like, all this whining about Rainbow's problems is a waste of my time. If we're not going to take any action, we should mind our own business. But a lot of very good information in this battle pass. Now, I want to finalize this video with some of the smaller quotes which didn't really necessarily fit in along the way and are more just little quotes and inspirational slogans by operators, but I definitely think are worth putting in. We have this one by Scopo saying, several operators have mentioned being unsettled by the blood red hydraulic fluid used by the shells. They should get over it. Which is actually quite a funny meta way of them answering a lot of the stuff that the community were saying when Scopos launched, because if you shoot the robots, it seems like they bleed, which doesn't really make much sense. And you'd see a lot of people on Twitter and Reddit saying, why do the robots bleed? Well, here's actually the answer. It isn't blood. It's a blood red like hydraulic fluid. Hence why people mistake it for blood. I think it's really fun that they included this one to answer that community question. We have this one by Kaid on a charm called Bloodstained Legacy, which is the rainbow badge covered in blood, which I'm sure you can make out a lot of the imagery of what this may represent, but it's an absolutely stellar charm. I love this. But he says, a team is built on the willingness to keep fighting in spite of its failures. Not only is that true for a general sense, that's specifically true in Rainbow's case. In the previous battle pass for Operation Twin Shells, Kure talked about the memorial at Hereford for what happened at Bratislava, which Rainbow referred to as one of their biggest failures. A bit poetic that at this same location where this memorial is based, the team will be fighting in spite of their failures. I absolutely love this charm and the description alongside of it, and once I unlock this, I can't wait to run it. We have one by Blackbeard saying, "What's strength without bravery? What's bravery without intellect? What's intellect without strength?" I think that can refer to a lot of things. I also think it can be quite relevant to his interaction with Thermite, because not only as a soldier, but as a leader, it's very true. But it can be applied to pretty much everyone. But I think the best one to end the video on is the one by Thorn, saying, "If you get knocked down, knock them down harder." Because not only should the recruits in training follow that, but as should Rainbow in this current situation. And so everyone, that is the Battle Pass lore of Year 9 Season 4. I cannot wait to see what happens next with this whole Hereford storyline and everything. I think it's going to be absolutely sick. I wonder if they're setting this up for the big cinematic for Year 10, and maybe we'll see Nighthaven involved in everything. Of course, there's still more lore coming this season. We have the comic book and everything. There's still a lot more to come, so make sure you're subscribed to see what happens next. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. I'll catch you all later. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.